at the inaugural Discover Sailing and Paddling Hub thanks to the Boating Industry Association. But we're going to get this panel underway. We have up first Miss Kathy Veel. She is an amazing sailor, and I'm going to pass her a microphone and we'll have a quick little chat and then you'll see a little bit more about her. So Kathy, thank you so much for coming here and being a part of this. Kathy was one of the first females to do the Hobart on an all-female team, which is pretty special. And then last year, she was the first all-female two-handed team to complete the Rolex Sydney Hobart as well. So take a seat, Kathy, and we're going to watch some of those moments from the Rolex Sydney Hobart finish last year up on the big screen.
Unbelievable. Nothing like I've ever had anything connected to that in my whole life.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And you know, seriously, when you just heard people going "Ka Ro Wong," and it was just unbelievable. I'm really proud of what we've done. Yeah. Actually, that's probably the main thing. And it's like
two-handed sailing is very challenging, and we really didn't have a lot of time to train and stuff like that. But we certainly got a lot of training in this, and just had such fun. The sailing was just brilliant. And the boat behaved so well. It was just magic.
Just so in love with the boat.
Yeah.
And some of the best sailing I've ever enjoyed in my whole life in the last week. So it's been incredible.
And this just finished it off by coming
I know,
in tonight.
It's insane. In the end, you know, we had to do what was right for us and the situation that we were in.
And our biggest challenge was getting the boat here before New Year's Eve, because you wouldn't believe the stops we pulled to get this happening. Yeah. I've been saying to Kathy, you've got to do 7 knots. If you don't do 7 knots, it's not good enough.
No, I'd say, but I'm going for 8, Bridget. So.
And I said, that's fine, but no less than 7. So we've been working our butts off to get here. Yeah. And it's paid off.
Excellent. So that is Kathy Veel, ladies and gentlemen, definitely one of the hero women in sailing. Up next, we have someone who has been at the show with us all week and the birthday girl, Miss Michelle Lee. Not only has she rowed the Atlantic solo non-stop and unassisted, she's also rowed the Pacific, which took 240 days. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at the key moments from the Atlantic crossing, and this is just the start of our panel, ladies and gents. Take a seat if you want to watch on.
You just want someone to give you a hug. This is Michelle in the Atlantic, somewhere on the 20 degrees latitude. Wow. I gotta tell you, I don't love going overboard. I'd be braver if there was myself and one other here. But anyway, as Martin Rooney says, you have to go into the raw. It's facing your fears. It's just doing it. Damn, I can see more pippies. So I had to just take the chance and do it.
And that is Michelle Lee, or just a small snippet of who Michelle Lee is, an incredible female, that is for sure. Up next, we have the amazing Lisa Blair. I'll just pass her a microphone there. Not only does she hold the monohull solo non-stop and unassisted record around Australia, she also holds the record around Antarctica and is doing incredible things for science. So you might have heard about her sailing, but let's have a little bit of a look at just what her boats are doing every single step of the way as she is undertaking extreme sailing for science.
So I thought I'd take you through the science that's taking place on board the boat at the moment. So this is the Subsea Research Unit. So this does a lot of ocean health readings. It's been running 24/7, taking unlimited data, and basically it measures things like acidity, salinity, chlorophyll, PCO2. So it gives us an indication of how the health of the ocean is in this area of the planet. And there's not a lot of data that does that, so it's a really great little system. Then over here we have the microplastic sampler. So the water's coming in through a skin fitting in the bottom of the boat, comes through the subsea research unit, and then pairs off and goes through this unit here. In this little device here I have the filters, and I have in there a 500 micron filter at the moment, and I'm about to change that out for a 100 micron filter that I'll run for 2 hours, and then I'll replace it with a new 500 micron filter, which we run for the other 22
Ladies
hours.
and gentlemen, just a little taste of what Lisa Blair is doing, and we're going to learn more from her. You're very welcome. Up next, we have the amazing Sarah Davis, first female to lead an expedition of the Nile, paddled 3,000 kilometres, I've said this a few times now, whitewater rafted 1,100 kilometres, and the first female to also paddle the Murray. So let's have a little bit of a look at her journey down the Nile. And that is a little bit of a taste of what Sarah has been speaking about here at the boat show every day. So great to have her. Last but not least, we have Sarah Kenny, who is the Vice President of World Sailing. She also was an Olympic windsurfer, still a windsurfer. Her son's a sailor. She's on the selection panel for the Women's America's Cup team, which is super exciting. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time.
Pleasure, great to be here.
Absolutely great to have you. Let's have a little bit of a look at what's in store for the Women's America's Cup team, and then we're going to get underway.
One of the great moments in sporting history.
This is going to be iconic, it's going to be history.
This campaign has the ability to transform women's sailing in Australia.
Amazing performance by the Australians.
A really unique opportunity for Australia to finally be able to fly our flag.
We've got the skills, the ambition, the resources and the talent to win for Australia.
And welcome to Spain.
Australia made history in Marseille. Aussies had to fight off Japan for a 10-minute winner-takes-all showdown on the final day.
So excited to be able to pioneer this for all Australian sailors. The AC40s are the most extreme boats on the planet.
The impact on the America's Cup was huge.
The new winner for the America's Cup.
We're building more than a campaign here, we're building a legacy.
This dream can really only be realised with the whole country's support.
So come on this journey with us. We really do believe we can win this, and we're really excited to share this opportunity with you. Now is the time.
And that is a little bit of a taste of what's to come next year with the Women's America's Cup, but the work is already underway. So I just feel incredibly privileged to be I'm sitting. I was almost lying on this seat, but these ladies have graciously moved over, which is lovely. But I mean, what I wanted to do in collecting this panel was to show you the incredible breadth of being on the water without an engine. And also just how far you can go in your sport with a little bit of effort. So I have some amazing adventurers here sitting with me that have been talking for the entire boat show. But then we also have somebody who's been involved with sport for life, and we're really trying to send that message. Kathy Veel has been involved with sailing her entire life as a skipper, and really was one of the forerunners. And I know you talk about Tracy and Dawn Riley being people who really forged the way, but I really think that you were one of the people to forge the way. And if you could tell us a little bit about your story when you started sailing, what was it like being a female?
Yeah, I started sailing as a young adult. It was family sailing on my boyfriend's father's boat, and that's when I learned the basics and I really learned to love it. And what they told me then was, Kathy's as good as a man on a boat, and that passed for a compliment, so you kind of go with that. But way back then, and even up to the 1980s, when I got involved with Women on Water and we did a Sydney to Hobart, the assumption back then was that women can't do this. And there was a lot of opposition, which often expressed itself as concern for our safety. What are you going to be doing when it blows 35 knots? And we'd sort of say, well, probably about what you'll be doing. We'll be putting a reef in and changing down to our storm jib. So it was just the assumption, which is just so different now.
Indeed. And then next year we have Michelle Lee, who has overcome some amazing barriers, but also in your own mind, because when people are telling you that you can't necessarily do it, sometimes you start to believe that yourself. And I know that so many people, and if you visited Michelle down in the marina, you can see Australian made, which she's rode not only the Atlantic but the Pacific on. And I know that people have said you couldn't have done it.
Yeah, in fact there was a gentleman here today and he said, oh my God, I saw you, I've got a photo of you in April 2022 when you were training, and he said, I actually texted my mates on the day, I rang them and I said, I've just spoken to this girl who reckons she's going to row across the Pacific. He said, I don't think she's even going to get out the heads. So he actually came to say, congratulations, you did it, I was one of your naysayers, one of your doubters, and all I can say to that is, for us, the sweetest thing is finishing and just smiling. You say, well, here we are. But also it's just creating a filter. So you're going to get that in life. Often with anything that you do, there is going to be some negative Nancy's, doubters, naysayers. And you need to just create a filter and surround yourself with those people who champion you and believe in you, because sometimes you get that little birdie on your shoulder, you have that little bit of imposter syndrome. That's going to come and go. And you know, self-belief sometimes will wane, but you just have that really tight support network who believe in you, and on those doubts or days that you are struggling, they will pick you up and have a very emotional connection to your goal. So you'll get there.
Oh, and that is an incredible message for sure. But I just love how Michelle speaks about using the Atlantic as a training opportunity for the Pacific. I find that incredible. And I think maybe she used the Pacific as a training opportunity for the Indian Ocean, and she'll get better and better and better, which is brilliant. But Lisa Blair is sitting next to me, and as somebody who didn't make it the first time you attempted to go around Antarctica, I mean, what did you learn? And I think some people may have said, she's not going to go again, but you've gone again, you beat the record, and here we are.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, with the dismasting in the Southern Ocean, like that was something that I looked at for so long as a failure point in my career, because it felt like I hadn't succeeded. Yes, I'd set the first women's record and I had made it back to port with one stop and I completed the journey, but I didn't do the target, which was become the fastest person in the world to sail solo around Antarctica. And, you know, this is a very, you know, topical conversation, but I don't believe that there's absolutely anything different between guys and girls on boats. So why should I hold a women's record when I could be the fastest person and it just be that? And you know, it took me years to process that experience and also just rebuild my self-belief, because it had changed my relationship to the boat, it had changed my relationship to the sea, and it had taken a lot from me. And I had to remind myself that as crappy as that whole experience was, it had also given me a lot, because I had gone through one of the absolute worst case scenarios and I had survived. And I'd survived because of my planning, my preparation, my mindset, my procedures on board the boat, and they were what allowed me to actually succeed out there. And you know, I remember leaving after the dismasting from South Africa and restarting the record with the intention of going back to 45 degrees south. And when you talked about like support network, Michelle, I'd had this influx of emails and contacts, and people were getting hold of my mum's number and saying, don't let her leave, she's going to kill herself, she's suicide, don't go. And so that was playing on my mind, on my family's mind. And then I left and I went into the most extreme storm scenario, because it was winter in the Southern Ocean now, so it's, you know, the forecasts were generating swells at 15 meters and snowstorms and blizzards. And I broke down completely because I started listening to that
And it wasn't until my mum gave me some advice that allowed me to sort of switch my mindset again, and it allowed me to look at the positives and understand that I was capable, and just because maybe those people couldn't do it doesn't mean I can't. And and I was able to use that to then get around Antarctica a second time. So,
and there you go. And now she's sitting here. Not only with one outright record for men and women, but two around Australia and around Antarctica, and hopefully soon to be the Arctic.
And New Zealand.
And New Zealand. I'm sorry. and then we'll move right along to Sarah. Now, Sarah, you've paddled the Nile, you've paddled the Murray, but you're not a paddler. Please explain this to me.
Well, I mean, I didn't grow up doing it at all. It was really only something I started, I think in my early 40s, was getting into paddling when I joined North Bondi Surf Club and started doing some of the sports there and started getting into the masters competing. But I'd rock up and be the only female masters from my club, and just sitting there on the beach like Norman no mates. That's quite sad. But then really got into the paddling, and it was like this new world opened up for me, and I was just so grateful that I got into it from all the competitions I got to do. And it was then, having done that, then got to do the Nile expedition. If I hadn't become a paddler, it wouldn't have crossed my mind to do anything like that, and that just turned out to be the most incredible, life-changing experience. I mean, yes, tough, terrifying, but also a lot of fun as well.
So you were in your 40s. How old were you when you did, am I allowed to ask this, your Atlantic and Pacific crossings? Am I allowed to ask this?
I was 46 when I did the Atlantic, and then I turned 50 3 days before I departed for the Pacific.
Okay, and Kathy, how old were you when you got the record with the double-handed last year in December?
70.
Sport for life being on the water, ladies and gentlemen, sport for life. Indeed. So you can start at any age and you can continue to any age. And so now we're going to have a chat to Sarah. We've got Sarah and Sarah. It's quite cool. So just in case you've just joined us, I am just going to recap for everybody who may have done that. Kathy Veel is a sailor, and she's incredible. She's not only part of the first women on water team, was the first female team to do the Hobart, one of the two that did the first two-handed females to do the Hobart, and they actually finished right on midnight. So it sort of, was it last year, was it this year?
No, 18 minutes to midnight.
Okay, there you go. So it was last year. Michelle Lee has rowed solo, non-stop, unassisted, both the Atlantic and the Pacific. Lisa Blair holds a number of records around Antarctica, around Australia, and there's specifics to those, but and is going for a few more. Sarah has paddled the Nile and the Murray, and now we're up to Sarah Kenny, who is, was an Olympic windsurfer, still a windsurfer.
Still a windsurfer, absolutely.
Still a windsurfer. She's also the Vice President of World Sailing, which is our governing body in sailing. She also is on the Advisory Committee for Integrity Australia, so she's making sure that we stay clean, essentially, in terms of any doping, any corruption, any gambling. Yep. She is also on the selection panel for the Women's America's Cup team, which is incredible. Did you ever think that we would have a Women's America's Cup team? And did you ever think we'd have an Australian America's Cup team again? And you might have seen the video. It's pretty amazing and pretty patriotic, something we can all get behind.
It's an amazing opportunity, seeing all these amazing women in sailing finally get an opportunity to race for what's always been the pinnacle in our sport. I heard the other day that it took the Football World Cup 6 decades to do a female version. Unfortunately, we've taken quite a bit longer to get the female version of the America's Cup, but it's going to be absolutely awesome. And these women that have applied, the talent that we have in this country, I really hope this is going to bring sailing to the nation. You've got to tune in and see these incredible women sailing these amazing boats, which is all coming very soon.
And it is incredible, and I will bring this banner to the front when we do wrap things up, because you can sign up there to follow a little bit more about the America's Cup Challenge. But I think that it's pretty cool that we can see like sort of a progression of such in the sport. I mean, Kathy, did you ever think back in the day when you were putting together the Women on Water team, the first all-female team to do a Hobart, that we would see a female America's Cup team?
Well, at that stage I wasn't ruling anything out. Yeah, why
and she's
not?
Still pioneering.
I agree with you. There's no difference between what women can achieve and what men can achieve on the water. And I've never kind of seen myself as a card-carrying feminist or anything. I just did what I liked doing, and it never occurred to me that there was any reason not to do it because I was a female. And that was really it. It's just follow your heart.
Do you think it's fair to say, Michelle, that it's the other people that tell you that there's a difference between men and women, not us?
Yeah, and I can honestly say I've never actually felt it. I don't know what the difference is. Like, I've never felt victim of, you know, and it is, if I look at the stats, it is definitely male dominated. You know, what I do, more men have certainly crossed oceans than females. In fact, I was the 16th female solo rower in the whole world. So, yeah, definitely dominated by males, but I don't know, I think I just have blinkers on, I ignore it, I create filters, and I just do what I want to do.
And inspires a lot of people while doing it. I honestly didn't know there was a difference until I went to university. I was the eldest of 3 daughters. My dad always gave me every single opportunity I possibly could have, and so I never knew there was a difference until I got older. And then I went, hang on a minute, what do you mean I'm only allowed to sail with girls? Or I can sail with guys too, you know, I can do this, it's okay. So, you know, it's a pretty incredible world that we're now in though, where we're seeing all of these opportunities open up, and I can see a number of younger females in the audience. And I think what's interesting, and I was talking to a few behind the scenes of the America's Cup and the Sail GP, is that there's a whole generation of women now who are like, well, what are you going to give me to do this? Because I think Kathy's put herself out there in terms of making opportunities happen. You put yourself out there in terms of making opportunities happen.
Well, my own boat to make opportunities happen.
Likewise, and I'm sure you've done the same. And now we have a generation of women who have opportunities there. And I think that is incredible to see. And I know that you're not only leading the way, Lisa, in regards to giving people inspiration, but in terms of a message, in terms of sustainability as well.
Yeah, I think it's so, like, you know, we go out into the most rawest environments on the planet and we get to experience them in such a unique way because we're existing, particularly like Michelle and me being, and you would have the same experience, I would imagine, on the Nile, but you're invested in that environment because you're surviving on it for such an extended period of time and you're on your own. So you connect with that world around you on a different scale, I feel. And for me, having seen the devastation firsthand, I couldn't stand back and be silent anymore around it. And I have this incredible platform with my sailing to be able to activate it. So why wouldn't I? You know, it's like Michelle saying, like, just do it, like, why not? And it's so, and you know, the thing I've seen also, which is incredible, is the last sort of 5 years that between projects, is the relationship people have between the boat name being Climate Action Now and the sustainability message. From then, where it was quite hesitant and people would like balk at the idea, and now it's very accepted, it's very welcomed. I get a lot of coverage because of the name of the boat, whereas I was losing coverage 5 years earlier because of the name of the boat. So I've seen that shift come through in the last 5 years in how the public and the general public are relating to climate action and sustainability initiatives, and I just think that's fantastic to see that happening.
100%. And additionally, I think there's been a shift in mental health, and I know that Sarah, your love in is very much in helping women who have gone into a space where potentially they don't have anything else in front of them. And what I love about your video is the words that you hear in the song is you know, I'm free. I've learned to be free, and so that's pretty special. Sorry, don't tear up. Which is something pretty special as well that I think we've all found in the sports that we're involved in terms of being on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, you know, freedom is such a big thing. Like, that song was definitely chosen for a very, you know, big reason. And so when I've gone through some of the countries I've gone to appreciate the freedoms I have to choose and chase the opportunities that I can go after. And in a lot of these countries, there just aren't those same opportunities there, male or female. So it's, for me, it comes back to just really wanting to make the most of what I can here. But just also going back to some of the things we've been talking about is the importance of role models. Like, everyone here is a role model for, like you said, for younger women to see. And it was only when I saw a woman who'd gone on a kayaking expedition and she wasn't an adventurer or an explorer, that just gave me enough of a spark of self-belief to think perhaps that's something I could do. Because up until that point, having read all the books and watched the docos of adventurers, it had never occurred to me that that was something I could do. So the importance, I think it's fantastic that we're having this discussion and you're putting this on, because we need to share those stories to get people out there, because you just never know who's going to hear it and what difference that's going to make. So that's so I'm really grateful for this. It's brilliant. Thank you.
It's the least I could do. I'm, as I said right at the beginning, I'm privileged to be on the stage with these women, including Sarah Kenny, and this is where I'm going to ask Sarah about how much sailing is pushing, not only in regards to, we have an America's Cup women's team, which is pretty amazing, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but world sailing from a governance perspective, you're the vice president, which is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I think what we've got to appreciate is sailing has come a long way, and maybe not fast enough, but when I went to the Olympics in '84, there were no women's events. That was a demonstration event that just happened to include women. The first women's event was 1988, and then slowly but surely we got a few more. 2024, thanks to really agitation in the last 8 years, and honestly I'm a bit surprised that the number of times I had to continue to argue for gender equality at the Olympics, but 2024 will be the first time we have the same number of medals available for men and women in sailing, which is massive. It's really massive.
Absolutely, it's massive, and I think that's led from the top down. The board of World Sailing is gender neutral.
We have mandated, we're getting new governance, we've really tried to modernise, so from 2024 and our election in November next year, for the first time it will have to be gender equal, and that's really big in an international sporting federation, so I'm pretty proud that we're the sport that's managed to achieve that.
100%, and I think that when you look through all of the governing bodies in relation to sport, it's pretty cool that one of the on-water sports is leading the way in that regard.
And I think Australian sailing has always been really good. I mean, that's how all this started for me, and they've actually got more women than men on the board of Australian sailing, and incredible women doing amazing things for our sport.
Indeed, and so let's talk about incredible women, and I feel like we've already got some incredible icons here on the stage, which is amazing, and basically you're creating more with the Team Australia Challenge, which is pretty amazing. Can you tell us where we're up to with selections, Sarah? Are you happy to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had 136 applicants across the Youth and Women's America's Cup. 46% were women, which is absolutely awesome, and a really huge range from the young to the experienced. We're getting very close. We've been through a series of selection processes. We're getting very close to choosing our women's team, and by the end of the month we will have a women's team on water in Lake Garda sailing the falling F69, not quite the AC40, but a good proxy for the moment to really see how these women work together.
Very similar.
And and then the youth team will be announcing as well pretty soon. So we're getting very close. As you said, we've just launched the Team Australia Club. You can use the QR code there to log in. We really need to generate Matilda's level support for these girls and our youth team. It's going to be really exciting to watch, and hopefully the start of much bigger things to come.
Absolutely, and I think I read something the other day, speaking of the Matildas, they sold out their jerseys 5 times faster than the men did with the last Soccer World Cup. They sold their tickets 6 times faster than the men did, and they're getting far more attendance in the grandstands. So I think whoever thought women's sport would never work should have a look at that. Which is pretty fantastic, actually, I would just say quietly. So I think what I'm going to do, because I know that we've been talking for a little while, I'm going to go around the corner and around the panel and just ask what the biggest thing is that you've learned in your career and what you would share, and I'll let you have to think about it. Now, I might start at this end so that Kathy doesn't get hit first every single time, or I can start and then you guys can go. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to open the floor for questions as well, because I know that you guys might want to ask a question of any one of these amazing women, if that's cool. So the biggest thing that I've learned is that your network is incredibly important, and that the sailing community, the boating community, the marine community, the friends that you have and the friends that you make along the way are what keep you going when it's hard. They're who celebrate with you when it's good. They're the ones that help you to create amazing things like this. and I think that the more friends that you can make, the more people you can talk to, the more people you can help, the more that you get out of it, I think, is definitely the thing, because it's not all about winning. It's very much about learning, and that's the biggest thing that I've learned, I think. So, yeah. Sarah.
Gosh, look, I think a combination of just belief in yourself and determination. I think we've heard that in spades here. That's why we're all where we are and why we do what we do. And I think also just, finding something that you love, because when you love it, really, the training and the hard parts, I mean, they're just part of the journey. So I'm sure for all of us, it's just being on the water. I mean, I can be happy in a dinghy.
Me too.
Just being on or near the water, it's what, it's, I always say it's the best medicine, it's the best psychiatric treatment, it's everything you need. You just get near the water, and, and it's lifelong, and we're all going to be going till it's the last breath we take, I suspect.
Yeah, we can all start rowing like in 30 years. I did say to Lily Peel earlier, and it's her birthday, and I think she's one female who'll be involved in this for a long time. I said, we can go sailing together when we're 80, and then I went, wait a minute, you'll be 60, I'll be 80, all right, fair enough. What do you think, Sarah?
Oh, look, I think for me, it's been about following my curiosity and just keep trying different things. I got to that point where it's like, okay, this isn't it, and not settling. Everything is workoutable. It's just continuing to just think about what that might be, follow the curiosity and experiment and have fun with it, and just see where it takes you, and not overthinking it, because you'll always be able to find a way when it's something you really, really want.
Yeah, and I think to follow on to that, for me personally, it's like you're far more capable than you really realise, and I think we limit our abilities because we think we can't do something, but if we really try and we commit to something, whether it's 10 times higher than you ever would have thought possible, if you start down that road, you can eventually get there. And like for me, 8 years ago, I never would have been able to sail around Antarctica. I never would have been able to get there. But I've been able to build the skill set and the time, and I've invested in that goal, and it's allowed me to get to that point of delivering the project. But without that commitment, I wouldn't have been able to get there, and I could have just as easily limited my belief in that moment and chose not to take that challenge on. And so I think, having that support network, but also just being able to believe in yourself and set those big goals, because we can achieve them and you grow into them.
Yeah, good one. My thing is, you just say yes. Life is full of opportunities, and I just say yes. I think about the details later, and I know to be true, when you are following your heart, when there is no conflict between head and heart, you've got brain and heart coherence, the universe responds. The universe really does want you to achieve your goal, and it's amazing who comes into your life, what doors open. It's also amazing who falls away from your life, and don't be afraid of that. Let it happen, because it's making space for others to come in to assist you to achieve that, what might seem impossible. So yes, guys, follow head and heart, and don't just go dip the toe in. You have to go all in, and it will come to you. I know it to be true. Take the leap, or the quantum leap. Take the quantum leap.
Problem with going last is
I promise you I'll do another one so you don't feel like you're going last.
Yeah. Now, what I think comes to me in this is just don't be afraid to take on a challenge which is more than you think you can cope with, because if you wait till you're totally across it and you think, yeah, I can do that, then that's a little bit, there's no room for any growth, there's nothing new in that. But I think my approach is actually, well, I think I could probably do that if, and it usually works. The sea and the ocean is always going to be bigger than you, and the world's much bigger than you, so you don't need to feel that you're in control of it the whole time. Just get in there, back yourself, do all the preparation, as Lisa says. Trust other people who also have confidence that you can do it, even if you're doubting it yourself. And just say yes.
Take it on.
And take it on. Do more than you think you can.
100%. I think that's one of our family's sayings. It's bite off more than you can chew, and then chew really hard with a few expletives in there. And I myself, for those who don't know, I've won a few worlds in open classes with boys and girls, and so I think that that was pretty amazing and something that I'll never forget. But the biggest thing that I can see just sitting here with this amazing group of women who are incredibly inspiring is that we've all got amazing amounts of smiling lines.
We all have a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had in being on the water, which is something that's incredibly special. So none of us will ever get Botox because we're so proud of these smile lines, don't you worry about that. So at this point I just want to say a massive thanks to these ladies, but I also want to put the word out to you. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, I'm going to wander around with a microphone so that you can talk to these ladies. Does anybody have any questions? Come on.
Don't be shy.
I'm coming down. I'm gonna just randomly pop microphones in front of people's faces if you're not going to ask questions willingly.
Look at them run.
Quick.
Here I come. All right. You ready? Do you have a question? She's got a question. She's just not going to put her hand up.
If there's someone that's doubting themselves in what they can do, what's a piece of advice that you would give them and just to push them that little bit further?
Who wants to take that one? Sarah's got it. Excellent.
Just take one small step. Doesn't matter how big a step it is, just one tiny step forward and you just start to build that little bit of momentum and just keep looking for things that you've done where you can go, okay, well maybe if I did that, I could do this, and just constantly reflecting and back yourself. I think, as women, we don't celebrate our successes enough, and we play small, which we rip ourselves off when we do that, because then we're not giving ourselves, hey, I did that, and now that means I can do that. So it's those two things, to learn about yourself, to celebrate the successes, even if it's just acknowledging it to yourself, and keep taking those little steps forward.
Awesome answer. Oh, I can hear myself twice. This is fun. Do you guys have any questions?
Just wondering a little, I think that's a really good point about women doing the, making yourself a small target, but do you find that men get inspired or behind you, or do you feel they really disappear and drop away when you're going on your endeavours and just come up like at the end and give you that congratulations when you prove them wrong?
Can I take this one? Do you guys mind? The one thing, in the beginning, it was very different to it is now. I think over the decade I've been doing records and doing solo sailing and campaigning. I've seen a huge growth between this gender division and this acceptance and the support for women in sailing from both guys and girls. And I've not just seen it in the sailing industry, I've seen it across industries worldwide. And I think that that's really powerful, and the amount of people that volunteer on my boat, that come down, that pitch in, that spend all-nighters with me getting to the start line, it's probably more guys than girls are actually out there doing that for me specifically. And yes, I still have the odd person that's, falls off the wayside, but as Michelle says, you just put that filter on for those people and focus on the ones that are there to support you. And there is a huge amount of that is happening now, and I think that's just fantastic to see.
I feel like, Sarah's going to add to that.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, because I was at a function last week with the World Cup, and an ex-Socceroo was saying there's still, and he was talking about his experience in football, there's still a cultural issue though around the acceptance that a strong women's sport is good for all sport and good for men in sport, because often the reaction will be, well, what does this mean for me in a negative way? So I think the big cultural shift that we need generally in sport is strong women in sport is good for sport, full stop. So I think we're seeing that in spades now with just the wonderful atmosphere and success of the Matildas and the World Cup as an event, and we're getting there in sailing, but I think we still have a way to go. I think the events that I have seen, like Sailing Champions League, where they mandate 2 women on the boat, you just go and hang around those events and there's so much more fun. When there's a gender equality, everyone's having more fun. So yeah, I think a little bit more work to do to accept that really gender, it's nothing, it's just good for all sport. So get behind everyone in sport, but don't fear that promoting women in sport is going to cause detriment to men, because it's actually the opposite.
And I think that's a great note to finish on. I think diversity across business, sport, family units. I mean, we all know that having a different set of, a different frame of reference, a different way of looking at things, a different way of doing things, a different way of learning. I mean, it's all incredible, and I'm just so excited for all of the inspiration that we have on this stage, but also the potential going forward. And I think that we can't deny that the best is yet to come, which is pretty exciting. So thanks for all of your work to really forge the path in regards to having more women on the water, which is what this is all about. So thank you very much, ladies. Thanks so much.
Not all day.